Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what is happening this week up in the stars above us. Today's show is called Alchemy in Motion. It's all about truth, healing, and new beginnings, and that's because this week is the beginning of a new human design week. Today is actually. And because we also have the sun moving into Scorpio this week, changing signs from Libra. And we have Neptune retrograde already, or Neptune already in retrograde, moving backward into the sign of Pisces. It should be an interesting week. So I hope all of you are doing well this morning. I see some of my fans already popping in there. Terry Hickox, good to have you with us. I always like it when you can show up. Tom, good morning. Hi, he says, how are you astro design goddesses and gods doing? And what time does this 11 o'clock show start? Always later on GooTuber. Should be right at 8 a.m. Pacific time anyway. So 11 a.m. your time, Tom. And there might be a lag just because that's how they tend to start these things. So here I am and ready to share with you all of the things that are going on this week. And we get to start this week with the new human design energies. It is an interesting week because we're still moving through the shade energies, right? The shadows of the spleen center. And as we talked about on Friday, the sun has already been through here or is moving through here. Mercury has already been through here. And now Venus is starting her transits through the spleen center. So it is certainly a time of the year, especially that we get to deal with shadows, right? With the fear energies. So this week, as we step into a new human design week, the sun is lighting up the gate 50, which is called nurturing. And the gate 50, I would love to show you a chart. However, my website that I used to do that, this has apparently done an update over the weekend, and I can't find that function in it. It appears to have gone bye-bye. Either that or it's something to do with the screenshot that I see, and I don't know, but I couldn't find it in time. But I just want you to know it's on the spleen center, which is if you look toward the bottom of your human design chart, it is the center on the left side with the point of a triangle moving inward toward the sacral center. And the spleen is the center for health and wellness. Also intuition and survival energy. It also deals with time and timing. And as such, it can also sort of show us in our own energy centers where it is that we might be holding on to fear. And the fears that we've talked about so far were things like the fear of not being good enough, right? Or not knowing enough. The fear of the future. And what is the future going to hold for us? We looked at the fear of failure through the gate 32. And now we get to look at the fear of failing in our responsibilities to our friends or our families. So this week, as we step into the gate 50, we're being asked to look at how we nurture others and ourselves. The earth always brings us the grounding piece, right? So earth brings us the grounding in the gate 3, which is on the sacral center. And it is a gate called innovation. So it is an energy that is different. It operates on a little bit of a different wavelength. And people who have the gate 3 already defined in their human designs tend to feel sometimes like they are a fish out of water, right? That they see things so differently from those around them. But there is a certain amount of innovative energy here. And the innovation energy is all about starting something new and how we, at the beginning of something new, we have some trouble, right? It's a wobbly time. For instance, my back end website or human design chart creator changing things over the weekend, and me at the beginning of this new system having trouble figuring it all out. where did my favorite things go? Because now they're all in different places, right? So together, these two gates, the 50 and the 3, create a powerful theme of responsibility in creation. And let me put all that together for you so you can understand how this works. Now, Tom is telling me there's a huge lag, about 35 seconds, that he'll never get back. Worth the wait. But I miss the take your cup of tea bit at the start. I don't even know what to say about that, Tom, because it's nothing that I'm doing on my end, right? I see go live, I go live, and I don't know what else to do about that. I have a feeling it might be something to do with maybe updating your YouTube. Are you logged in to your Gmail account? Maybe updating your browser, because the browsers have been updating a lot lately. So other than that, I don't know. It's totally out of my control. I'll try to get a hold of YouTube and see, get a hold of somebody at YouTube. That's a kind of funny thing because you can't get a hold of anybody at YouTube, but I'll try and see if I can figure out what is going on. All right. So anyway, gate 50 lives in the spleen center. It is all about values and ethics, and also how we care for the collective, how we care for our family, and how we care for ourselves. And it asks a very simple question. What do you stand for? Right? What is your value? And are you aligned with your value? How do you contribute to the well-being of your community or your family? And it's the energy of stewardship. In a way, it's protecting what matters most, right? This gate 50 is really deeply feminine energy, and it's the feminine energy of raising up the children, right? Teaching the children or the community the values of the tribe or the values of the community, and allowing those children to grow up. And as they grow up, they get more responsibility. They become more accountable for their actions. Now, in the negative side of this energy, though, sometimes it can become smothering, mothering energy, where you kind of take over their lives and you try to micromanage every single thing about their lives, but also micromanaging yourself, and allowing that to happen takes away from the eventual accountability for those children or those people in your community that you're trying to raise up. So the feminine energy here is stewardship energy, but protecting through the transmitting of the values of the tribe, right? How we organize ourselves in the community, how we stand up for one another, how we are living our lives by walking our talk, right? That is the energy of this gate 50. Now, also the gate 3, the earth in the gate 3 is the gate of innovation, and it's in the sacral center. So we know it's connected with doing energy or being energy. And this energy is about taking the raw material of chaos in the beginning of something, and giving it form and putting it into some kind of direction, or giving it some kind of direction. And it's that moment right after things fall apart, right, where something new is trying to emerge, and we have to be innovative and creative in how it is that we bring that together. It needs patience. It needs us to trust, and the creative flow will take shape, right? We need to trust that that creative flow will establish itself in some way over time, right? Over time. Now, when we look at these two gates through the gene keys, I just saw what Tom wrote. I stand for sitting. I love it. Okay, so through the lens of the gene keys, when we are looking at the gene keys, we see the frequency band for each of the human design gates. Now, frequency band may be a new term. I don't know that I've bandied that about very often, but a frequency band is, from the shadow to the gift to the Siddhi, right? So different frequencies of an energy. So through the lens of the gate 50, the shadow energy, or the lower frequency band, is corruption, the shadow of corruption. And then the gift of equilibrium and the Siddhi of harmony. So we have this beautiful frequency, increasing frequency band through the gene keys. And it's not about corruption in the political sense, right? I always have to say that because the word has gotten so tied to politics. But it's about imbalance, right? I want you to think of the shadow of the gate 50 as something like a program that you install on your computer. And at the very end, the computer will alert you that a file perhaps was corrupted. And it asks you to restart the download, right? Or reinstall. So corruption here is about the imbalance when power and responsibility get distorted, specifically in this particular gate. The medicine to correct all of this is balance, right? It bringing fairness and ethical leadership into how we nurture others. And it's interesting because this gate sits on the edge of late Libra and early Scorpio. So we can see how this theme of balance and fairness through Libra is bridging into the energy of Scorpio that we end up in on Wednesday this week, and taking it into this depth now, and taking into the distortion and the responsibility for correcting that distortion. So we're bringing that fairness, but also the ethics into the idea of what we value, right? So you can think about all of the things that we're seeing going on in our outer world through government, but through your community, even in your own family and tribe. What's out of balance that is requesting, demanding almost, that you bring it into balance through living your values, right? Through being aligned with your responsibility for walking your talk, right? And talking your walk, if you will. Now, the gate 3 in human design corresponds to the gene key 3, where chaos is the lowest energy. But chaos leads to innovation, and innovation leads to innocence. So we have this new beginning, right? This energy of something that we start at the beginning that maybe has some wobbles, has some chaos. And chaos isn't wrong, by the way. It's simply the raw energy of creation before order takes shape. So in a way, the gate 3 is about the order that we bring chaos into, right? So we bring chaos into order and finding fresh pathways or new ways of expressing that energy along the way. And ultimately, innocence, the last Siddhi, or the Siddhi of that gate, is about the childlike trust that we must have in life's unfolding adventure, if you will, right? So many times, we're out of control. We don't have the control often about the time it takes for creation to establish itself, right? To actually gain that foothold. So how might this show up for us this week, right? Let's bring it home, right? In the real world, what is this going to look like? Maybe you find yourself reorganizing, not just your schedule, but your values. What matters most to you now, right? I had one of those aha moments yesterday, right? Where we weren't even in the gate 50 and 3 yet, but I was looking at all of the things that I do, and what I really want is to be the storyteller, the astrological human design, astro design storyteller. So you're going to see how that begins to take shape in the things that I offer out in the world, as far as your readings that will be available, or how I do those readings. You're going to see that in the blog posts that are coming up. And I'm teasing this one because I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, maybe even before the beginning of this year, I wrote an outline for a book. And I had that outline sitting in my Word documents. And yesterday, out of the blue, which always happens to me, I got this hit that I needed to turn those chapters into stories that I am going to download to you on a weekly, maybe bi-weekly or twice a weekly basis. That has to do with alchemy, but it also has to do with recognizing spirit and spirit's work in your life. So Maybe just because I experienced things maybe a little earlier than everyone else, I was already being called to step up in a different way, maybe with even greater integrity, right? Because a lot of the times, if I have to be true to my sun, the gate 12 in human design, it's a storytelling gate, right? It is a place where the story is channeled through romance and poetry, and I do my best work when I am actually relating things through story. But I come on here every day or twice a week and I start to tell you the facts and the figures, right? I get into my logical brain. So I'm going to try to tweak that a little and tell some stories. And we'll start that this morning with a little bit of a story as well. Now, that means this week for all of you is a great week to tend to your creations, your work, in your relationships, even your inner world, and ask what wants to evolve itself here. What is the evolutionary impact this week for you? And if things feel chaotic, and they likely will, right? They likely will. I got into the chaos of this idea yesterday because I didn't know what to do with it all. I didn't know how I was going to bring this out to you. I didn't know when. I didn't know the details, right? So I just had to sit back and wait for all of that to coalesce. You as well may have these great creative moments. And remember that those creative ideas are sort of the natural birthplace of innovation. And that happens to all of us at some time in our lives. So stay grounded in what you care about most, right? Stay grounded and trust that the new patterns that are forming beneath the surface will emerge and will reveal themselves to you in the right timing. Yay, right? And of course, all of this beautifully foreshadows Tuesday's new moon in Libra, where we have relationship focus and the reset actually for relationships and balance. And as well, Mercury coming into a conjunction with Scorpio or with Mars in Scorpio, and, bringing action to the table, right? Bringing the potential for expressing all of these different energies. The sun's energy at the gate at 50 says, let's build with integrity. Let's share with values. And the earth at gate 3 reminds us then to let innovation be messy, because it is, right? It's not always, creation isn't tidy, but it's always sacred, right? It's a sacred time when you're in the midst of creation. And all of us are at one time or another, in one way or another, in the midst of creating something in our lives. All right. So just remember that the shadow energies are present. This is the time of the year where the sun is in the shadows, right? It is setting, if you will. The days are getting shorter, at least for us in the northern hemisphere. And those shadows then are much more visible to us. So don't be alarmed if you're seeing the messy side of things. Don't be alarmed if you're seeing corruption or mismanagement of ideas, or how things didn't turn out the way that you planned. Just allow the creative process to carry you into what the next step is, right? It's pretty easy. Sounds easy. We never know if it's going to be easy, though. All right, let's see who else has joined us here this morning. Nargis, good morning. Good to see you. Teddy, good morning to you. Christine, good morning. Nahid, I think that's you. I can see. And Terry says, I restarted, Tom, and he can fill you in on what you missed. All right. Well, I'm sorry that there's problems going on out there. It just seems like, all of the internet is wobbly these days. I feel like there's something, I'm going to use the word nefarious. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at heart, really. I just sort of laugh at the conspiracy theories, but I really feel like there is something going on in the internet that makes things that people are saying more available versus less available. And I have a feeling that's happening here with my morning show. As sometimes things that we are talking about fly in the face of the real world, right? That what people expect of the real world. We shall see. All right, let's go on to Mercury and Mars. So this week, those two come into a conjunction, and they're both in the sign of Scorpio. And actually, that conjunction happens tomorrow or today, excuse me, along with the movement of the sun and earth into new gates of the human design week. So in this first part of the week, it's about creation with care. And this transit of Mercury and Mars meeting together in Scorpio encourages us to speak our truth, but also to take decisive action. Mars is that action principle, and Mercury is about our mind and about communication. And so bringing out what needs to be said, right? Bringing it up and out. Mercury rules the mind and language and communication, how we process energy or how we process information, and then how we express what's going on within us. Mars, of course, the action principle, he rules with action and drive and raw, instinctive energy, the raw energy of doing. And then when these two come together in Scorpio, a sign of depth and passion and intensity, things can get very real very fast, right? So expect that this week. Scorpio doesn't do surface level. It doesn't do surface level conversation. It wants the truth, the whole truth, even if it's uncomfortable. So sometimes we're digging into the depths, right? We're digging deep. We're bringing up deep things from within inside of us. So under this energy, you may feel more direct or bold or even impatient to want to get to the heart of the matter, right? But remember, it's a journey to the heart of the matter, right? This is a week of a journey. The words that come through could carry some intensity. They could carry emotional depth. This is a sign of deep emotion. It is water energy. It's also passion-fueled speech. And I am so waiting for someone to leap onto the world stage that can speak to all of us in the language of passion, in the language of humanity and ethics and love and integrity and values. So maybe this week somebody will come up and join the stage with that level of heart in their speech. But there's also a fine line here between courageous honesty and reactive confrontation, right? Remember, Scorpio does get a bit confrontational, and so does Mars. And Mars is a co-ruler with Pluto of the sign of Scorpio. The shadow side then of this transit can show up in defensiveness, in verbal sharpness, right? Getting out our verbal swords, if you will, or trying to force our point of view on someone rather than just a conversation, making it very one-sided and very clear that you're not open to anything but your own opinions. The gift, however, in all of this is profound transformation through honest communication, heart to heart, right? Soul to soul. And this is the week to say what's been unsaid and to do it with awareness, with integrity, and compassion, right? Empathy for one another. Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, conjunct in Scorpio, because they're tied together this week, invites us to align our words and our actions and to speak and act from your deeper truth, not from ego or fear, right? And, this is the time of year where fear is very palpable. It's right on the surface for each one of us. So how can you move beyond the fear? In human design, we always say, feel the fear and do it anyway. But in feeling the fear, don't allow the fear to color your words. Stay clear to what it is that you want to say. So how could this play out then for us in real life, right? Mercury conjunct Mars in Scorpio is a very powerful coming together of these two planets. Maybe you feel the urge to finally address something that's been simmering beneath the surface, right? Just bubbling there. Maybe it's in a relationship or in a work situation or even within yourself, right? Something that you have to face and to do something about. Maybe you feel more mentally focused or determined because that's another, aspect of these two planets coming together. It's a great week for research. It's a great week for problem solving, for looking for solutions beyond the pale, deep emotional processing. If you're having something to deal with in your life, right? Some emotional trauma or drama, this is a great week for doing that. Or you may simply notice that conversations this week have more weight, right? They land more heavily within you. There's substance to what's being discussed. It's not small talk this week, right? It's not superficial. It's down below the layers. Now, remember, the theme for this week is about alchemy in motion. And this Mercury-Mars conjunction is the fire that catalyzes that transformation, right? It burns through illusion. It reveals what's real and also makes us ready for rebirth, or creates the pathway for us for renewal, rebirth, renewal, rebirth. What is the word? I was just had it on the tip of my tongue. Regeneration. There we go. A very Scorpio word, regeneration. And if you can stay centered in the nurturing energy of the sun at gate 50, and the integrity, the ethics of the gate 50, and the creative flow of the gate 3, you'll navigate this intensity beautifully, right? It's not about fighting or pushing or forcing anything. It's really about aligning your words and your truth and your actions, right? All three, into one coherent expression, being the truth of who you are. How's that landing for everybody this morning? Give me some feedback here. And Tom says, it's all the CMEs, lots of light coming in that overloads things, perhaps. Could be, definitely. Good morning, Jolie. Good to see you out here this morning. Soul to soul, back to life, back to reality, back to the here and now. That's perfect theme, I think, for this particular week, Tom. And Christine says she likes that song. And anyway, there are multiple themes that we could be expressing here. And a lot of this is dependent on where the energy of Scorpio is in your natal chart. So if you have Scorpio, let's say in the 4th house, likely this is going to play out at home or in your family, right? It's going to play out maybe even in beliefs that you've held on to through your ancestral line. Lineage comes to mind, right? Legacy comes to mind if it's in the 4th house. If this Scorpio is playing out in your 10th house, it's going to play out in your career. Actually, in the integrity that you have and how you show up in the world, whether that's through your vocation or career profession, or is it just through how you show up in your family or in your tribe or community. So depending on where Scorpio is how it is going to play out for you personally. And that also means that if you have other planets in Scorpio, then you're probably going to experience it at a level of intensity that someone who doesn't have planets in Scorpio will experience it. So it's very different based on your own chart. What might be really good is to sort of journal your feelings, what's coming up, what's the shadow or the fear that you're experiencing, and then later come back to your astrology chart and equate it to the house that it's in, the other planets that are there, and as well look at your human design chart. Right? Look at that spleen on the lower left. Is there something sitting already at the gate 50? If that is, then it's got a little color up to it. It's either red or black, or maybe it's striped. That tells you that you have energy there already. And now that energy is combining with the sun to shine a giant spotlight on that particular gate for you, right? So it could be more intense for you, more focused on something. So again, we always go back to what is going on in your own personal chart. And if you need help with that, get me to do a reading for you, a transit reading. We can look ahead and see what these things are bringing you to. If it's your birthday coming up, right? If you are Libra, late Libra or Scorpio, it's time for your birthday reading, right? It's time to find out, what does the year ahead hold for you? All right. Now, the other big news of the week, of course, is the new moon, right? We have a new moon in the sign of Libra. I thought it was going to be in the 29th degree. It's actually at 28.22. So it's headed to the 29th, but not quite there. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the new moon. So over on the left side, right here, I know you guys can't see me circling my cursor, and that's so darn annoying. But if you look on the left, highlighted in orange is the Sun-Moon combination in Libra, and at 28.22 degrees. And then just above them, you'll see Venus, also in Libra. Pretty far away, though, to consider it in orb of this particular new moon. However, you might notice that kite and Venus at the tail of the kite, right, holding the opposition with Neptune on the other side. And then that kite, really filling in some of this new moon energy. So this particular new moon in Libra is no ordinary reset, right? Every month we have a new moon and we reset the energy of what's possible. We reset the energy of intentions, right? What we want to manifest or create or grow in the month ahead. So in Libra, the reset is truly going to be a cosmic PowerPoint, weaving these multiple configurations. If you look here, we have this grand water trine, we have this kite, we have a yod actually pointed at the new moon, and we have a stellium, if you will, of Mars, Mercury, and the black moon Lilith all together in Scorpio. And so when we have so many configurations activated in a chart, we have a dramatic sky, right? We have a dramatic potential for what is coming in the month ahead with this particular new moon. Now, this one carries a lot of weight. It carries the weight of endings. It carries the weight of healing, and it carries the weight of collective realignment. So much, right, riding on this particular new moon. So if we look at the setup here, the sun and the moon are conjunct. That's what a new moon is. They meet in Libra, and it spotlights then the themes of relationship and harmony and balance and justice, right? Justice being a huge word in the whole Libran ideal. Now, the two, the sun and moon, they stand in opposition to Chiron and Eris that are in a conjunction. They've been riding together for a while. The goddess of discord meeting the wounded healer, right? So there's this potential for discord and disruption to create a healing path forward. But the healing path forward comes from maybe some kind of wound, some kind of trigger to your natal wound. And this opportunity then might be bringing us the exposure to the wound in order to find the right self-expression or the right healing path for moving through this particular wound. Then there's also, I need to validate this. Hold on one second. There's Jupiter. Jupiter is at 24 degrees, 26 minutes, it looks like, of Cancer, which puts it in a square to the sun-moon combination, so the new moon. And then the square, of course, adds tension. It adds this kind of anxiety that is pushing us to do something. And then there's the inconjunct to Saturn and in Pisces, and that sort of stretches out the wound, that stretches out the tension, it stretches the need for us to address contraction and expansion, right? Jupiter's expansion, Saturn is contraction. So we have these two pieces of this pie that are, working in behind the scenes, if you will, of this particular new moon. So let's look at these dynamics individually because they're very powerful. They're very complex as well. So I'm going to try to break this down in an easy way for all of you because this is activating in your own chart, right? On the new moon tomorrow, we have, by the way, that new moon happening at October 21st, 8:26 a.m. in the Eastern time zone, which makes it 5:26 a.m. for those of us on the West Coast and the times in between. Universal time, it happens at midnight 26, or no, excuse me, not midnight, 12:26 in the afternoon. So all of us experiencing the new moon on the same day. at least, in the Northern Hemisphere here. The yod, let's look at this yod. So the yod is in green. So if you're looking at my chart, you'll see it in green highlighter. And the point of the yod, the release, right? The finger of God is pointing at the new moon. So if you have a finger of God pointing at the new moon, it says, what is it that you want to create? What are you manifesting? Right? And the base of the yod is made up between Uranus in the 0 degrees of Gemini, a karmic or critical degree, and Neptune, which is also at 0 degrees of Aries. Yeah, 0 degrees of Aries, because he's backward. He's moving toward Pisces. Sorry, brain fart there for a second. And that base then forms this sextile that holds the harmonizing potential. If you take that energy and you move it toward where the sun and the moon are sitting. So it's a fated turning point, if you will. This is fate, right? What's fated here? And it's one that demands that we make new choices in how we balance ourself versus others, and how we balance freedom and harmony. So, this is collective energy. So it's not just personal. It's not just in your personal life. It's also about what's happening in the wider world, right? In the bigger sense of those needs for balance. Now we also have the Grand Water Trine. It's here in blue, and it's between Jupiter in Cancer and the 3 Scorpio planets, Mars, Mercury, and the Black Moon Lilith, and then Saturn in the sign of Pisces. And, Neptune the very next day moves into, backward into Pisces. So we might as well add that maybe Saturn-Neptune conjunction to this whole mix. And, these guys are deeply changing us from the inside out, right? There's something moving from within the depths of each one of us. It's deep emotional intelligence. Remember, that's, what our human design is pressing us forward to increase our emotional IQ, if you will, emotional EQ, emotional quotient. And deep emotional intelligence is available here in this new moon time with this Grand Water Trine. So conversations, the Mercury and the Mars and the raw feminine truth of the Black Moon Lilith kind of unite with Jupiter's growth and the anchoring energy of Saturn's grounding, right? Saturn kind of bringing everything together into form, right? Form and function. And this is an excellent energy for healing emotional wounds. So this new moon really puts us in the way of a healing of things that have bothered us at the emotional level, and anchoring new commitments to how it is we want to show up in relationships, or in how we, commit to one another, how we create collaboration and cooperation and co-creation rather than codependence. Right. So we have this big energy happening. Now, the kite. So we've become very familiar with kites, right? Because all summer long we dealt with kites. And, this is I want to say it's not a rare occurrence, but I guess it's rare that we have so many kites happening in the astrological sky. So the Grand Water Trine is also playing a role with another trine, another Grand Air Trine that makes up a part of the kite. So we have Uranus, Venus, and Pluto all in air signs, right? Venus is in Libra, Uranus is in Gemini, and Pluto is in Aquarius. And they're creating this air energy, the grand flow of information, of ideas, of kind of some chaos. There's, air is hard to pin down. Water is deep, and it is held in place. It can be held in place, right? We can dam a river and create a lake, or we can have mountains that surround a lake. There's depth there, right? But air is not that way. Air is hard to hold, right? I can capture air in a glass jar, let's say, but I can't see it and it's still in constant motion. And the minute I unseal the jar, the air is gone, right? Air is always mobile, it's moving. And so we have the amplification of ideas and inspiration and communication in this kite. And then we also have the potential for the magnification of breakthroughs and awakening, right? Because of the sense that destiny is calling us, right, to move through this kite formation. Because there's Uranus in Gemini creating new paths of conversation and in technology, and how is it that we, relate to one another through words. And then there's Neptune and Aries, right? Or Neptune soon to be back in, well, Aries, he's in Aries at this moment, soon to be back in Pisces, reminding us that we are sovereign beings, but we also are sovereign beings that are housing a spiritual form. And how is it that we blend the two in the actions that we take in the world? Pluto and Aquarius activating sort of, the wing on the other side. We have Uranus up here at one side of the kite and Pluto down here at the other side of the kite. And those reminding us that we have both the need for that Uranian awakening and that Pluto transformation, right? They're holding that space. But up at the point, that's Neptune in Aries, right? Neptune in Aries. So we have that. That's why that magnification comes from breakthroughs and awakenings, because they're being fed into that Neptune in Aries. So the kite, the Grand Trine, is amplifying ideas and inspiration, but conversations, communication, but also making it not such a quiet new moon, right? This is a pretty loud new moon, because it's a call for us to dialogue with one another, to dialogue across the divides, to innovate, right? That innovation energy. If we look at the new moon in human design, it's at the gate 50, where the sun is, and that means the moon is also at the gate 50, and the nurturing energy, right? So, and then we also have to reimagine balance, right? Reimagine what this looks like if we try to balance and harmonize all of these new things going on in the world. Now, I also want you to, I'm just going to point this out, this top of the kite. So the point is at Neptune, and then there is the trine from Uranus to Pluto. That is our configuration that we've had ongoing since August. The Grand Minor Trine, or the Minor Grand Trine. I just said that backwards. The Minor Grand Trine, which is the mechanism going on under the surface for the collective changes that we are going through. It holds the seed of the new beginnings, of the new world that's being created. And even though it looks chaotic, it's distasteful, some of the things that we see going on in that outer world. It is the seeding of a new world, a new mechanism for how it is we will all come together in the future. And of course, that is in place until 2028. So it's not like tomorrow we wake up and boom, we have a new world where love and peace and prosperity and abundance and tolerance and acceptance are all the thing, right? That isn't going to be the way it happens, but it is happening slowly underneath the surface. I feel like the Minor Grand Trine is the driver of the times that we are in, right? It's not the destination, it's the driver getting us to that destination. And in the meantime, some of the parts here, they're all outer planets, right? They're not the ones that affect us so much personally, as they set the tone for what's happening on the larger scale, right? So Pluto, the deeper, longer lasting transformation. Uranus, the awakening about how to use technology appropriately. How is it that we align with our higher selves? And Neptune, very spiritual, reminding us that we are sovereign beings, but also part of a collective. And with that, how do we get along? So in human design, the sun and moon activate the gate 50, the gate of nurturing. And together, they are asking us to take responsibility for where we are, for birthing something new, right? If we're going to birth something new with a new moon, then that means sometimes we have to clear something away first, right? We have to prepare the ground for the new beginning. And the gene key journey here, remember, is from corruption to harmony through creating equilibrium. Right. So the corruption here isn't, like I said, not the political corruption. It's the misreading of the code, right? It's the misalignment with the integrity of something, with the value of something. And so we get to course correct. The new moon then marks a collective reset in balance, right? Through disruption, a la Black Moon Lilith and Eris, and something wiser and more harmonious is emerging in all of this for us. So in real life, then, this lunation may surface through relationship tension, right? Through power imbalances between you and others, between you and institutions, that type of thing, or ethical dilemmas. Watch for those, right? Don't rush to fix them, though. Right? Understand them first. Instead, observe what's asking for new form, right? You might feel a surge of inspiration for sure. That's all part of this cycle's invitation to, start something new, a new project, or to clarify a partnership, or to redefine boundaries. But it's also an invitation to create those new things in a healthier and more authentic way. Right? One that is honoring of your values, your worth, your integrity, right? It's also a beautiful time to set intentions then for justice, for fairness, for collaborative innovation, for people to come together. Maybe we can, in the US, maybe we can find a way to get the government back on track, get the government back working, right? But it's also personal, but it's also collective, right? So we have big things going on. So this new moon is kind of launching a period of recalibration for each of us, and it may feel chaotic, but beneath that tension lies this profound invitation to birth new systems of harmony and justice, and to heal discord through wisdom, and to step boldly into innovation that serves the greater good, that isn't just, personal to you. All right, questions now. Let me stop sharing my screen here. And okay, let me remove this. Oh, I was like, something is going on behind me. It is the propane people. All right, so nothing I need to do here. All right, now, on Wednesday, the 22nd, the sun moves into Scorpio, right? Scorpio, the sign of depth and passion and intensity. And I have a little story here for you, right? As the sun enters Scorpio, it's the descent into depth for each one of us. And the story of Scorpio moves us from darkness to power, right? Dark to light. As the sun crosses into Scorpio's domain, the air changes, right? We've been in an air sign. Now we're moving into water. The light softens and the shadows lengthen. And nature itself begins its descent into the underworld of transformation. Look outside. The trees are shedding their leaves. The plants are dying back. And Scorpio is the time when what's hidden beneath the surface begins to stir, begins to awaken. And Scorpio's not afraid of what new transformation is happening. It's not afraid of what's raw or uncomfortable. It is the archetype of depth, not death, although it could be the archetype of death as well. It's the archetype of depth. It rules everything we try to control and everything we must eventually surrender: desire, loss, death, intimacy, power, rebirth. At its lower vibration, Scorpio is intense. It's secretive, sometimes manipulative. Its desire is to merge can turn into possessiveness. And its passion for truth can become suspicion that nobody's telling the truth. Its loyalty can transform into obsession or revenge. But these are only the shadows of a sign that feels everything so deeply and refuses to look away, refuses to, not look at what's right in front of it. At its highest expression, Scorpio is the healer, the alchemist, the phoenix. It dives into the darkness, not to wallow there, but to transmute what's in the dark. It knows that only by facing pain and betrayal and endings can we actually rise again, right? Can we reclaim our authentic power, the kind that comes from within, not the power over others. In today's world, the sun's journey through Scorpio is a collective descent into truth. We're witnessing systems that are cracking wide open, secrets surfacing, motives exposed. It can feel uncomfortable, even threatening. But this is Scorpio's sacred work. It is the work that Scorpio has to reveal what must change in order for something new to be born. So you might notice it in your own life through power dynamics becoming clearer, through emotional truths that surface in your relationships, and through a growing need for transparency or depth and soul level connection. Because Scorpio season asks us what we're willing to release in order to be reborn. Because that's the secret of Scorpio, of course, right? Death and rebirth are one in the same. They are one continuous dance. And each time you let something die, like an illusion or an outdated identity, a pattern of control, you make space for something more truthful and more alive and more infinitely powerful for you to take its place. So as the sun moves through the fixed water sign of Scorpio, lean into the transformation. Don't fear the endings. Honor them. Don't resist the truth. Integrate it. Scorpio reminds us that to rise as the phoenix, you must first surrender to the fire. All right. So the shift. So on Wednesday, as sun leaves Libra, the realm of balance, and enters the watery depths of Scorpio, where Libra sought harmony, Scorpio seeks truth. It's digging deep to uncover what's underneath. And this marks a shift from outer equilibrium to inner transformation, as well from diplomacy to emotional authenticity. And why does that matter to us, right? Why is this important? Because, every year this is a theme that Scorpio brings us, that time period, just after Libra and just before Ophiuchus, or just before Sagittarius. Both of Scorpio's rulers, Mars and Pluto, are active and powerful this week. So it matters to us, right? Mercury conjunct Mars in Scorpio. Wow, right? And Pluto holding the anchor point of a configuration that we've been talking about as the machinery of the new world, if you will, or the template for the new world. And Pluto also just newly direct in Aquarius, having gone direct last Monday. And if you've been tiptoeing around an issue in your life, this energy says, go there, face it, transform it. This is in your face energy. Where Libra kind of goes around and around, Scorpio goes straight in, right to the heart, right? The heart of something. So what it means for us is that we might be expecting stronger emotions, both from ourselves, but also directed at us from other people, right? Others feeling this heightened emotional energy, as well as heightened intuition. Your intuition is probably on hyperdrive, where you just know things. You don't know how you know what you know, but you just know. And maybe a need for clearer boundaries, right? We're drawing stronger lines around ourselves. Maybe you feel drawn to looking deeper into your motivations for doing what you do, for living the way that you live, for holding yourself back, for holding yourself down. What are those motivations? What's the bang for your buck for doing that? Versus what's the bang for your buck if you release that kind of boundary and allow yourself to expand outward in a new way? What if you were drawn to explore your secrets, your desires, the things that you want that you're just holding back? Not as dramas, right? Don't explore them as dramas, more about self-discovery and how it is that you can make use of this beautiful energy. And it is a time for us all to let go of what's decaying so that something more authentic can be reborn, right? So letting go the baggage, right? In the body, Scorpio energy rules the elimination system, right? As well as the reproductive system. So we have this kernel of rebirth potential, something new, something fertile that can be launched only as we let go of baggage, right? The old stories, the old fears, that type of thing. And we now will have this month-long focus on alchemy through courage, the courage to stand up and look at what is actually going on. And it's not about control or power over something or someone. It's the power with something, right? The willingness to walk through transformation consciously, right? What is our power? All right. So a lot of energy running this week and that's really not even the end of it. Neptune also this week is retrograding or he has been in retrograde, but he's going to move out of Aries and backward into Pisces. And he's slipping back into Pisces this week for another few months where he will stay until February. And he was actually in Pisces beginning in 2011. So this longer period of time where we were learning about ourselves through spirit, the wisdom of creation through imagination, and also finding that things can get foggy and disrupted through not being clear, and confusion and so forth, part of that experience. And then this is his final retrograde into Pisces before February, when he moves into Aries for the next 12 years or 14 years perhaps. So this is a review period, right? So on Wednesday, as Neptune moves backward into Pisces to join Saturn, who is also retrograded back into Pisces, it is teaching humanity about oneness and compassion. And I feel like somehow we're not seeing oneness and compassion very strongly out there. There are voices out there for that, for sure. And each one of us as individuals may be feeling that. But the overall energy out there is not oneness and compassion. So it is an opportunity for us to see that and see that shadow and reinstitute compassion and oneness. It is also about illusion versus truth. There is so much of the illusion that is caught up in Neptune that makes it hard for us to see our way to the truth. And yet, that is one thing as we go backward that we are looking at. We'll also be looking at faith and art and transformation, transfiguration, maybe even. Spiritual tools that we have to change ourselves, to elevate ourselves, to become more consciously aware. And the shadow side of Neptune in Pisces is about escapism, disillusionment, confusion, right? All of those things as well were being revisited. And now with this retrograde, we're asked to integrate the lessons of this era from 2011 to 2025. What was it that we are taking away from that Neptune transit? We are learning to discern where it is we are chasing illusions versus embodying faith, embodying spirit, a truth of ourselves. And we're also being asked to return to spiritual practice and surrender, not avoidance, but trust as the universe is unfolding as it should, as it is meant to. So notice where you might still be under Neptune's spell, right? Where are you facing unclear boundaries? Where are you engaged in wishful thinking? Where are you avoiding something? Or where are you over idealizing something? The retrograde back into Pisces is the invitation to clear that fog away, to reconnect to your spiritual center, where your truth lies, right? Where the truth lies. Now, with the Sun in Scorpio and Neptune revisiting Pisces, we're swimming in water, 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 emotion, intuition, empathy. And together, Neptune moving backward into Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer, and all the Scorpio energy, Mercury, Mars, and soon the Sun, supporting deep emotional healing and forgiveness, especially following the new moon's focus on relationships and harmony. right? So they're all working together. So the integration this week, i.e. the alchemy in motion, is all about funneling back to inward balance and harmony, right? The fire of truth from Mercury and Mars coming together and courageous communication. The sun and earth in the gates 50 and 3, that responsibility and innovation through care, right? Through being aware of where imbalances are. The new moon in Libra forcing us to sort of reset and rebalance our relationships and our responsibilities to each other. And then the sun in Scorpio and Neptune in Pisces, emotional integration, bringing it all together, the descent into truth, and then spiritual renewal, right? The alchemical process in real time is that fire transforms and that water purifies, and then air communicates and earth stabilizes. So we have these components coming together where we're being refined personally, but collectively. And we're being refined so that we can hold greater integrity and compassion and creative power as we move into this Scorpio season of rebirth. All right. I know that's a lot. That is a lot for one morning. And I'm going to draw us a card, one card, because it's already 9 o'clock here. And I'm going to do that from the Inner Temple deck, the new deck that I have from Rebecca Campbell, the Inner Temple Oracle. That just seems apropos for a Scorpio week, the ending of a Libra week, the ending of Libra as the sun's passing, on from Libra into Scorpio. So, oh, yes, that's the one. And, Chamber of Power. How apropos. Look at that. All the light coming in from the crown and aligning all the way down through the chakras into the grounding of earth. This is called the Chamber of Power. Let me back it up a little bit so you can see it. All right. Let's see what this means. Chamber of Power. Boy, there's lots of chambers. Here we go. All right. The Chamber of Power is an invitation to cultivate your inner strength, confidence, and trust in yourself, to believe that you have a right to be here, to occupy your life, to invite your sacred soul to come all the way in. Yes, you're here for a reason, and your body is your sacred vehicle. Choose to occupy and cultivate your sacred power. You were born with it, and it's yours to own. Within you, you have everything you need to do whatever you're called to do. You hold the keys to your inner power. There's nothing you need to be other than who you are already. So often we learn to dim our light or water down our power in order to accommodate others or to fit in. But you didn't come here to fit in. No person did. So no matter what body is yours or what gifts you possess, no person is more worthy of power than you. And you're no more worthy of power than any other. Power isn't a finite resource. We can stand tall together. For too long, we've learned to turn against each other, to compete, shrink, or conquer others. We put others on a pedestal or attempt to stand higher than them in order to own our strength and inner gifts. You hold the keys to your inner power, and you can open that door deep within right now. If you were feeling empowerment, what would you say or do? Woo, so perfect for the energy of this week. So there you go, the Chamber of Power. I love it. All right, that is it for me. I will see you guys on Friday. Thanks so much for joining me today. Bye for now.